Jeff has been saved from talking about Pop Tarts for now because Leroy Hoard, the host of the Tobin and Leroy show on 560 AM WQAM, joins us. Michigan man himself with his Michigan gear on.
Yes,
Leroy,
sir.
congratulations on the win. Thanks for giving us a little time.
Hey, no problem. What a game, wasn't it? It
Yeah,
was a
well,
hell of a game from start to finish. I said this last week, and everybody laughed at me. Michigan was the better team. I believe that from top to bottom. When you go quarterback, running backs, defensive line, offensive line, Michigan had the better team, right? Alabama might have the better name at this point, but if you look at it, Michigan had the better team, and they started out. And the only thing that worried me during the entire course of that game was it seemed like Michigan was blowing Alabama out and they were always within one score. And then they took the lead. And I'm like, what in the hell just happened here? We've been kicking their butts all game and now we're down. And it was the fumbles, the muff punt, the just things happen. That's sports. But Alabama, I got to tell you, Nick Saban, he was my defense coordinator when I was in Cleveland, right? That guy's he's smart. But I can't figure this out. Why would you let Michigan run the same blitz the whole entire game without making any adjustments? And that was four guys strong, right? You see all the
hmm
guys line up on the strong side of the field,
right.
right? And then bring the safety down the weak side, and they never block the safety the whole damn game. I'm like, wow. I said, I can't believe I'm watching this. Because you're always thinking, okay, they got away with it a couple of times. What is the adjustment going to be? And they never did anything. So Michigan ran their games, brought that guy on the weak side. They're more athletic than anybody thought because everybody was trying to tell us Milrow was the most athletic guy on the field, but he could never get free. And then the game went to overtime, and I'm like, yeah, Michigan doing Michigan stuff. They're going to run it. They're going to dare you to stop the run. All the things that you expect from Alabama in the past years. And it was incredible to watch. I was baffled at how good that defense was throughout the course of that game.
Does it fall on Tommy Reese and having a 31-year-old offensive coordinator to not make the adjustments that you're saying that they should have made?
I mean, I'm guessing yes, maybe, and here's the thing. Maybe they were running that based on your alignment and that no matter what play you went to, you were going to get that same look. So I would say it was a better coaching job by the defensive coaches for Michigan than it was a poor coaching job by Alabama because it seemed like the same look for the whole game. But I'm wondering what adjustments they tried to make. Here's the other thing. You know what the hardest thing to do in football? It's to go play a football game and scared to let your quarterback throw the ball. And that's what it looked like. They didn't have a lot of confidence in him. I mean, it's easy to play in the SEC when you're playing against teams and you could just run your guy out. He's athletic, make a play, throw it down the field. He's got a cannon for an arm. Okay, but how's that going to look when you play against a disciplined defense where they're going to line up and they're going to be where they're supposed to be and all those wide open guys aren't there? Or you change the timing of when he has to make these plays. So a lot of times in college, guy could sit back there and pat the ball forever, right? We took and shrunk that time of Milrow, and now he's looking at the rush. He ain't even looking downfield. So at that point, it don't matter who's open because he ain't looking.
His center seemed to be kind of seeing ghosts a little bit too. He had
He
lots
started
of problems.
rolling it.
Yeah, I mean that last play of the game wasn't supposed to be a run up the middle. I mean, you could see that the running back was open out the backfield, but the snap was low, so he never had a chance. He had to run it. But you talk about what happens when you play a team like this. You lead to a season low 288 yards total.
Right.
You lead to 6 total sacks, 4 in the first half. So yeah, I guess they made an adjustment. They only gave up 2 sacks in the second half after giving up 4 in the
Right.
first half. Talk about this defense, and the offense gets a lot of attention between JJ McCarthy and Blake Corum, but
Mhm.
talk about the players on this defense and just how nasty they are that to dominate an SEC team like that.
And how disciplined they are.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, it was pretty amazing to me that every guy looked like he knew exactly what to do and where he was supposed to be during the whole course of that game. And that's what it takes to beat a team like Alabama. Because in most cases, a team like Alabama is going to have more talent than you. Right? Now, I didn't think that was the case against Michigan. But that's normally what they do, and they wear you out. So regardless of how bad you're playing, or how good you're playing, you're not going to be able to sustain that. And teams like Alabama are always going to have a chance to come out in the end. But from start to finish, the relentlessness of that defense, how they made tackles, open field tackles, how they tackled Milroe when he was scrambling, how they got after the quarterback, how they stopped the run, right?
I'd for the Eagles to tackle like that. I'd like to know if I can take your defensive coordinator up here now to teach my guys how to do a damn thing.
You know what makes it hard in the NFL is that it's a thing that you don't practice, but you expect perfection, right? There's a lot of guys that play in the secondary that don't know how to tackle because they've never had to. The term lockdown corner doesn't mean support corner, right? It doesn't mean that guy's coming up. And so when you find these guys, the Browns have a guy that he'll come up and make a play. And when you have those guys who are also cover corners, you got somebody special. But the other thing is, what makes Philly so difficult right now and why they're in such a tough spot is because they're in a different position than they've been in the last 2 years. The last 2 years, they have determined what the other team's going to do. You have to adjust to us, and we're going to go about our business, and we're going to continue to get better until the playoffs. Right.
Right. Well, we're gonna get back to Michigan a little bit.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Jason likes to talk Eagles. We could talk Eagles afterwards, but and I do want to talk about lockdown corners because I think Michigan's got one, if not two. But before we get there, JJ McCarthy, as for people who don't know, who have been living on another channel, or another planet, Leroy was MVP of the Rose Bowl back in the day. Talk about this year's MVP. How good was JJ McCarthy in this game, and how important is his mental state to how far they've gotten and where they can get to?
I think the most important thing about him is he always seems under control, right? Kind of he's not a Jim Harbaugh quarterback. Jim Harbaugh is a linebacker trapped in the quarterback's body. Right? That's he was intense when he played. He was that guy, right?
Still
JJ
is.
McCarthy is. He's laid back. He just lets the game flow. He makes plays when need to be made, whatever that is. One of the most impressive things that I took from JJ McCarthy, with the way everybody worries about I, me, my, the way everybody worries about I need to get mine for the next level. I think people need to see me shine. Was a game, I can't remember who it was against. They literally had 8 passes the whole game, and they ran the ball the entire game.
Penn State.
It was Penn State.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it takes an incredible leader to understand that this isn't about me and where I'm trying to go. This is about winning this game today. A lot of guys can't handle that. And so from that standpoint, I've always, been even more impressed with his excitement only throwing 8 passes against a quality team, because he realized, hey, the most important thing is getting this win.
Talk about the other matchup in the semifinal before we get to the finals. Washington outlasted Texas, came down to a final play. Talk about both of those teams as we lead into what you're going to face coming on Monday and what you saw in that matchup in the Sugar Bowl.
They're very evenly matched teams. They both did things very similar. I would say that Washington's offensive line did a better job of protecting in the first half. In the second half, it got a little sketchy. But holy smokes, I'm watching this Penix. How in the hell did he not win the Heisman? Like, what happened that was better than what I saw on Monday? Right? Holy smokes, he throws it all over the place. They got three. They got one stud receiver and two other guys who are on their way to being that. I don't know what the stats is with their running back, and I don't know how that affects them
because he said he's playing. I don't know how healthy he's going to be,
right.
but they say he's playing.
Michigan sets up their whole everything they do around being physical and running the football. I don't know if Washington does that, but here's the other thing. Penix is not as mobile as Miro. So if you get there, you're going to get there. Now, he will run. Keep in mind, he was more of a runner before he got hurt.
Right.
And then he became more of a passer. But it doesn't mean he can't run. But I think it's going to be more of the same. You're going to have a larger collection of good receivers than you had last week. And I think the most important thing is going to be just play the style of football that got you there, right? We're going to put pressure on you. We're going to come after you a little bit. We're going to be sound in the secondary. We're going to swarm tackle when the tackles need to be made and let the game play out. Don't give up a whole bunch of big plays. They're a big play offense. Make them go down the length of the field. I mean, these are teams that aren't accustomed to going 10 plays, right? That's where Michigan lives. Oh, yeah, we'll go 10, 12 plays. So I'm not saying you're going to take the air out of the ball, but I am going to say don't get in a shootout with them, right?
Can they avoid it? Because you pointed out exactly what I'm afraid of, which is this team is not afraid to throw the ball. Now, Michigan has Will Johnson, who is the lockdown corner in my mind. If you look at his stats from the Bama game, there were 33 coverage snaps. 2 times he was targeted. That's it, and 0 catches allowed. Right. And then you have Mike Sanristel, who's undersized, but is the captain of that defense and makes plays. Do they have the defensive backfield to stop this kind of offense as opposed to what they've seen before?
Yeah, because you know what stops that? Pass rush. So no matter what I think of what they can do in the secondary, I always have lasting in my mind the way they got after the quarterback up front. And so when you watch the Texas game, he sat back there and pat the ball for a long time. Michigan's got to shrink that time, right? They got to shrink that. They did the same thing with Miro, who, when he was sitting back there patting the ball forever, he could make some plays down the field.
Right.
You shrink that time, and Miro, you can't tell me he wasn't looking at the pass rush and not even looking downfield at points of the game. So more of the same. They got that film, so you're going to have to be a little more creative, in how you do it. And then you're going to have to try to avoid the big plays. The big plays are, especially for a team like Washington, is like if they get their track shoes on, it's going to be a long day. So just kind of, play the same style of game you played, being aggressive, covering and being where you're supposed to be in the secondary. I was so impressed that no free runners, right? No guys running around the field scot-free because somebody missed an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the most important thing that you're going to have going into this game is that they're going to have a lot of guys running in the secondary. That's what they do. But you're going to have to be poised. You're going to have to be committed to what your responsibilities are. And if all else fails, rush the quarterback.
I wanted to ask you about the moment. You're a guy who's been the MVP in a Rose Bowl. You've been there in these huge games with all eyes on you and the pressure. What's it like for these guys? I mean, they just went through this whole thing, the circus last week. So they have a little bit of expectation of what it is. Michigan's gone through it before. What's it like for these guys going into Monday night for that game?
Well, I would say this. I probably never experienced what they're experiencing. every time I had a big game, which was Ohio State, we had a month to get ready for the Rose Bowl. So you had time to wear down, reset, and start over, right? The only time I can think of where we played two big time games, we lost them both. We started off against Notre Dame and then played the University of Miami in Michigan. Now we never lost another game, but we lost
Whoa,
those
whoa,
two games.
that Miami game was painful enough for a whole season.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. but think about this. Mike Gillette misses a field goal against Notre Dame,
mm-hmm.
and we have a 30-14 lead
with
with
6 minutes left.
6 minutes left, and we
mm-hmm.
lose, right? And we never lost another game. 3 points. 3 points. So, to be able to continue, keep in mind, Washington's doing the same thing, right? Except here's the difference. Michigan's been in the playoffs the last 3 years, or 3 out of the 4, right? Washington's their first time here. So from that standpoint, I'm not worried. And then you got a bunch of coaches, including Jim, that's been in bigger moments than this. Hell, he coached Super Bowl. So he knows how to keep everybody's head level. Whereas Washington's new to the party. Now, they may feel like an underdog. Like, what do they got to lose? Because nobody probably expected us to be here, which won't be accurate, but they'll lie and, try to find any motivation that you can. And it's moments like this where you know what you resort to? You resort to what you've done all year, your commitment to knowing what to do, how you play football, and you go out there and you play the best version of that again. That's all you can really do. Don't get caught up in all of the other stuff because it really, at that point, it doesn't matter. So anybody talking to the guys or anybody saying anything, guess what? When the game starts, it all goes away anyway, right? Once the game starts, like the Rose Bowl, you spend a week. You spend a week out there with all the Lowrys and all the Disneyland and all the, and then practice and all the things you go through for setting up the press conferences and all this stuff, right? But as soon as that game starts and you put your mouthpiece in and get busted in the mouth, you forget about it.
Tell me if this makes a difference to you. These Michigan players have been together for a long time. Mm-hmm. From the captains of this team between Corum and McCarthy and Sandristel on the other side, these guys have now gone through the lows and the highs together. They've gone through all of the adversity together, but they've been together for all of this time. Mm-hmm. Washington has been put together a lot more through the portal.
Right.
These guys haven't been there yet, and they haven't played together that long. Does that give Michigan any type of advantage that these guys have been together this long and are that cohesive?
No. Like you would like to think.
Thanks.
But did you just see what Washington did to Texas?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you answered this way.
Who cares how they got there?
Yes.
Like, you know what? You eat a delicious meal. You don't go ask the origins of it. Great meal. Washington's a great football team. Who cares how they put it together?
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
I love it.
I mean, they're 13-0.
Is there something to be said, though, for going through the battle with the person to the side of you that you know how they'll respond and they've tested before?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it has more to do with this. The guys that I played football the most with, one being Steve Everett. During the course of a game in Cleveland, if I had something to say or he had something to say, he could come to me and say it because we've been playing football together for a long time. That's what that is. Because I respected him. He respected me. He knows we've been through it already. We've been through this. We've been through the Ohio State games. We've been through the bowl games and all this stuff. So when I come at you, when I come to you, I'm coming from a good place, right? When you don't know somebody and you've been playing football with them, you kind of have to go at it a little different because you're not sure how he's going to receive it, right? But I had guys on my team, even at Michigan. Like our running back room, we all basically came in together. Me, Jared Bunch, Tony Bowles, Chris Horn, Tracy Williams. We were all freshmen together. That would never happen nowadays. Two of them guys are transfer
I was
portal.
going to say they'd be out real fast to
Right.
another school if they weren't getting enough playing time.
Right. Think about that. I didn't really play till my third year.
Would that happen? And that doesn't really happen anymore.
Would you have stayed?
Would I have stayed?
What a question.
Yeah. You know why I would have stayed?
Because of the sign that says those who stay will be champions?
No, that's not why. That's not why. Because I was sold and I believed at the core of who I was that I was better than these guys and I deserved to play. And
Do you think today's athlete, today's kids in college, that there are a lot of them that have that mentality anymore?
No, you know why? Because all the damn phone calls they get from the coaches. Come on over here. We'll treat you right, buddy. Right?
Right. So why is this allowed? Why is there not, once you sign, that's it, no contact? Why is it that the coaches are allowed to keep recruiting kids past when they commit?
Well, here's the deal. They're not usually allowed to do it.
But they do it.
But we have, because guess what? Let's think about this. Okay. Let's use our big brains. There is no way in hell the transfer portal could open up on Tuesday and on Wednesday, the quarterback from Ohio State is where in Wisconsin?
Syracuse.
No,
he's at Syracuse.
TVD. He's at Syracuse. TVD from down here in Miami. He was at the bowl game in a Wisconsin jersey.
Mm-hmm.
That don't happen that fast with nobody. So, yeah. But here's the other problem. And I believe you want to fix this. You ready? There's two rules, right, that I would change. If you're going to take NIL, your ass is playing in a bowl game. You can't. That's the way jobs work, folks.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way if you get NIL money, you're not skipping the bowl. And if you get NIL money and you hit the transfer portal, you got to give the money back. That's how the real world works. So everybody want to keep it real. Everybody want to get everybody paid. I'm all for it. But then you can't have it both ways. If you are committed to this NIL and you want to get paid when you get here, then you got to have some kind of responsibility in that also. So you say, hey, you think you might want to hit the transfer portal? Don't take the NIL. Right? And so and it's the NCAA's fault because when they could have made rules for it, they were so against it that now they let California, put it in the law. Then everybody else had to follow suit. And then the NCAA had to, but then it wasn't regulated like it should have been.
But do you think it's a great idea. It's the first time I've actually heard that idea. But my immediate thought was a lot of the kids that are going to get this NIL money, they're going somewhere else, not just for playing time. They're going because there's a better NIL deal somewhere else.
Okay, let me ask you this. If a coach signs a 10-year, $100 million deal.
Ain't worth the paper it's written on, but go ahead.
And he decides to leave after 4 years and go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That school coming after him for some of that money because you have a contract. Now, they can fire you, but then they owe you the rest of the money. Right? So if a college kid comes in and he's talking about NIL, you can go get more NIL, but guess what? You got to pay us some money back so we can bring kids in that want to be here. Because what ends up happening is, say if you give a kid $1 million and he leaves after 2 years and goes somewhere else, now you not only lost the player, you lost the NIL money.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it's a great idea, but my lawyer brain's sitting there going, there's 50 million ways to get around this. And that's the problem. And most of the ways to get around it are legitimate, because what you're going to have is you're going to have smart business people doing what you say at one school. And then there's going to be other schools that are going to sit there and recruit kids by saying, by the way, you don't have to return your money if you come here. And kids are going to sit there and go,
somebody's going to return that money. Like, you can put whatever twist you want on it.
Mm-hmm.
They sign it and say, hey, if you leave after this, certain amount of time, right? Because here's the deal.
That's if you make it a universal rule.
Kid, right.
Right.
But say a kid comes in, right? And he's backing up, like, say, Ohio State. Like, they had all this room full of Heisman Trophy winners in one room. Joe Burrow left,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if he would have got NIL money and he decided to leave, right?
Right.
And Ohio said, sure, you can go, because I think everybody loved Joe Burrow in Ohio. They would let him go because they saw his situation. But what if they said, no, you're going to be playing soon as this guy leaves? I don't want you to go. And the guy goes, well, I can play next year if I go here. Okay, give the money back. Because this is why we gave you a 3-year NIL deal, because we knew you weren't going to play your first 2 years.
Leroy Hoard for NCAA commissioner. Start the
No.
campaign, Jeff.
I can't. Like, I no chance. It just, listen, there's too many people. Like, you know what's crazy to me? Think about this. You know why Florida State didn't make it into the playoff? Because of their own conference. Because last year they wanted to expand.
Right.
Guess who voted against it?
Florida State.
The
And
ACC.
Clemson.
Yeah.
No, not Florida State. The
Oh,
ACC.
yeah.
So, Florida State doesn't get in. All these teams are looking at, wait a minute, we didn't get in because of our conference? Now they all want to get out of the ACC.
Which is stupid because next year the playoff is 12 teams. So
but you don't want to represent the ACC. That's the hope.
Why? What's happened to that conference that it hasn't been able to keep up with the Big 10, the Big 12, the SEC?
The problem is that, I mean, they got 2 championships in the last, 7 years?
right.
More than the Big 10. So
They had an undefeated team this year.
What do you mean keeping up?
Well, if from a conference and revenue standpoint, where their members view it untenable to be a part of it to actually succeed.
Well, that has nothing to do with football. That has to do with the people running the conference.
Gotcha.
Because guess what? When I turn on a Big 10 game, I'm looking at progressive commercials. I'm looking at all these fancy commercials. All this. When I watch an ACC game, there's a potato peeler. It's commercials that you would see at 2 a.m. after getting home from the bar.
It was the same thing with the Pac-12. And look, those business people destroyed that conference.
Yeah.
Look, you look at the number of good teams just this year, and if the fact that they couldn't get themselves a good TV deal is beyond me.
Right. It is. But there you have it. Like, so teams are like, wait a minute. Like, either do something or we out. And arrogant people in the NCAA feel, don't worry, we'll find somebody else. Really? You going USC? Right? Come on. It's like, and guess what? The funny thing is we feel totally different about the not the Texas and Oklahoma, right? We always looked at that conference as it was like the top 4 and then that conference.
Right.
Because they couldn't play no defense.
Well, and now you've got, I mean, look, the championship is basically a Big 10 game.
Pretty much.
You guys will have a rematch of this in like October of next year.
You know what's amazing is that Washington reminds me so much of Urban Meyer's Ohio State, right? Like, just with the athletes they have on the outside going down the field. They don't run it as well as Ohio State did back in the day. But holy smokes, do they have some talent offensively.
Yeah, but you just violated the rule of the show. No discussion of Urban Meyer.
Jeff has Jeff doesn't deal well.
All right, Leroy, we're going to ask you for a pick.
I'm going to pick Michigan 30-21.
Who's the MVP?
Who is going to have, and I'm thinking of this in a kind of, who has to have a big day for Michigan to win?
I think Blake.
To me, it's Blake Corum.
Yeah. I think it's
because
Blake.
that the running game sets the tone for everything else that happens offensively.
Plus it keeps Washington's offense off the field.
Yep.
And so if you guys can control the ball, it's funny. You're not a ball control offense per se, but if you can run a ball control offense, Washington can't get those wide receivers and that quarterback on the field, then you guys got a much better game.
Well, and then the other thing is, man, when you run the ball consistently early,
They get tired
when you
late.
get into the second half, like those hits don't hurt as much.
Tell me about that. You're a guy. Okay, you've done that. I mean, we'll let you go. I know we're going long, but you're a guy who's run into that pile and those players on the first play of the game, and then you're a guy that at the end of the game, when they've been beaten down the whole game, you get that run and you break the run that you couldn't in the first because they're just so tired. Now, what's that like in terms of mentally for a guy?
I tell this story all the time. So I forget who we were playing. And usually, if you notice, running backs don't talk trash because we can't initiate contact. We're getting hit, pushed, poked. They're trying to break everything that you are as a football player to get you not to play hard, right?
Right.
And so one time I got tackled, it was like a 2 yard gain. The linebacker got up, mushed me in the face. It's going to be all day, baby, all day. I said, come see me in the fourth quarter. That's what I said to him.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, he ran up in there and I put my helmet underneath and we just went for a ride for like 10 yards. And I got up off of him and I say, excuse me? What'd you say?
You don't remember his name?
I can't hear you. No. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. But that's it. My whole football career, when I was at Michigan, when I was at Cleveland, wherever I was, is that I prided myself on the fact that no matter what you did to me, you weren't going to break me. Right? I thought it was comical that you were spending so much energy talking to me to try and get, we haven't figured out yet. You're not going to do this to me. So you're just wasting energy. So from that standpoint, it when you have backs that do it and you know it, you can feel it, right? You know when they're those guys. Like, guess what? You think Blake Corum gets that 17-yard run in the first quarter? Right? But after being worn down for a whole game, instead of hitting him, they reaching for the ball. Right? That's football. If you can, that's why you always hear coaches say, I didn't stay patient with the run. Right? I should have been more patient with the run.
Well, that is the one thing that Harbaugh never regrets.
Never.
There will never be a day that Jim Harbaugh comes out and says, I should have stayed with the run and I got away with it.
31 to 20.
Never.
I have to be careful what I text Jeff, and he may be hyperventilating during the game. So,
well, I could tell you that there's a lot of Michigan people that are grateful for Leroy and the stuff that he did for that university and the way he carries himself for that university. So we really do appreciate you coming on our show.
Anytime, Jeffrey.
Thank you so much, Leroy. You take care of yourself, and I will give you guys go blue. Go ahead.
All right, guys. Did it hurt? It almost seemed like that hurt a little bit.
What hurt?
When you said I'll give you guys a go blue, it sounded like it hurt.
Well, I'm a Rutgers guy.
It hurts him. He went to Rutgers.
I've suffered through.
My program director went to Rutgers.
So ask your program director, Jamie Morris laughs about this when I tell him Rutgers was 0-11 my freshman year. They were the worst team ranked by Sports Illustrated. So going to the Pinstripe Bowl this year is like progress for me as a fan.
First of all, what does that say about the University of Miami?
Believe me, we used to get our butt kicked by Miami. They would give away like a hot dog and a bus ride and a free ticket to the game, and everybody would leave after the first quarter when they're down 21-0. Like that was my fandom. So Jeff has taught me what it's like to actually be able to root for a big time school. That was not something that what I came up with as a sports fan there.
So wait, Leroy, you met my son. My son said that he has never seen me that stressed out as around the time that I texted you and said I can't take this anymore.
It's something. Listen, I got to tell you, like I was scared out of my pants, and here's what I hate about where I am in sports right now. I can't do nothing about it. Right? I can't. All I can do is watch and cheer, and that's I don't know how fans do it. Holy smokes!
I'm just going to tell you, as somebody who's known you for way over 3 decades now, that more people like you need to get involved. Like there should be, the NCAA should have a committee of former players who made it to the NFL, who have stayed in the sports industry, who can put together recommendations of common sense things to get things done, because they don't do anything now.
That would make
You know why common sense doesn't work in the world today? There's one word that gets in the way.
money.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Like, think about it.
But that's
Think
also
about every
the
situation
incentive
that you've
for
been
common
in.
sense.
Every situation you've been in where money was involved, common sense is out the window.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's all of my clients.
Well, Jeff would say I bring no common sense to the show, but what else can I do? Leroy Hoard, we can't thank you enough for the time. Good luck to Michigan, and we'll talk to you again soon, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
All righty.